Our guest today has studied law at Jindal Law School, Delhi, and practiced law with top lawyers and watched them argue on benchmark cases such as Article 377, Sabrimala and Decriminalization of adultery. She founded Pink Legal, a women's rights platform. She co-founded Hyderabuddy, which is Hyderabad's food and lifestyle blog. She's been awarded the Best Legal Entrepreneur of the Year by BW Business World magazine and the Digital Women Award 2020, powered by Google, presented by She the People TV in association with Colors TV. She was recently part of a panel discussion about women empowerment with regards to independency and startup. She writes interesting blogs as a passionate hobby. She's opinionated, fierce, courageous, and a feminist through and through. We have with us our very own Hyderabadi, Manasi Chaudhari.
Thank you so much, Mohana. I must say that introduction is so humbling and flattering at the same time.
How does it feel? Such a good resume, such an amazing big resume. How does it feel?
I mean, I don't know how it looks from the outside, but for me, it's just the work that I've been doing. And it's not that, I planned it this way. It's just that looking back, the dots always get connected.
Yeah.
So I have gone after what I wanted to do. And that's how it happened.
Yeah. So there might be a lot of perceptions about anybody in general. But what I want to do here is to know your perspective about your journey and yourself rather than, listen to somebody else about your stuff. So this is what I want to do here. My first question is, I read in your bio that one of the first principles instilled in you by your father was listen to everyone, but you do what you believe is right. I want to know what you took from that, because for me, it looked like, having room to make mistakes and learn from them. So I was wondering what you took from that and how important that was for you.
So yeah, that's a very important piece of advice my dad has given me since childhood, and only now in adulthood I understand its value. Because a lot of times you are faced with making decisions which can be confusing. You don't know which option to choose. So then I always ask for advice, because I think there's nothing wrong in asking for advice. The more you ask, the more you learn. So whoever I feel will be valuable, I ask them for their opinion. But ultimately I go with my gut feeling, because I think that's the most important, because nobody else will know my life and my journey the way I do. So, no matter how good somebody else's advice may be, it may not be applicable to my particular situation. So that's how I take this advice and go for it just from my gut and listening to what that inner voice tells you what to do, right? So I always listen to that.
That's amazing. So relatable. I've been through situations where you take advices that you're overwhelmed with advices, and it's so right to listen to your own instincts, I feel. And I don't think not everybody has the courage to actually listen to it. So I was wondering who or what gave you the courage to actually be able to listen to that inner voice of yours and trust it and actually implement it.
I think that's come from experience, because we all grow up doubting ourselves at some point or the other, right? And I think so. Basically, a couple of years back, I had one of my biggest failures in adulthood. And that was such a big learning experience for me. It removed my fear of failure, and it really made failure my best friend. So after I went through that experience, I think I really understood that it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to fail, because you can always come out of it. And losing that fear of failure has given me the confidence to follow my own gut and my instinct, because I know that even if I follow what I want to do, and if it's not the best decision for me, it's okay, because there is room for making mistakes and I can always learn from my mistakes. So I think that's what kind of gives me the courage to follow my own gut.
Would you mind, is it possible to share that failure with us?
I can give you like a overview. I mean, but I can't tell you the details.
Only if you're comfortable, no issues at all.
Yeah, so it was something that I was one of my goals in my professional life for a very long time, and I had worked really hard towards it. I gave it my 100%, and at least I'm so happy that I gave it my 100%. So I know that there was no stone unturned that I left. But life had other plans for me, and I think whatever happened for the best reason in hindsight. Obviously at that time when that particular thing didn't work out, I was devastated, and I couldn't believe that it's not happened. But then immediately I was like, okay, now let me look at plan B and what should I do. And I just Luckily, I had my partner with me who's my anchor, and I think it really helps in these kind of situations to have somebody with whom you can, share your feeling of vulnerability, because it kind of picked me up when I needed that. So all of this helped me come out of my failure quite fast, and then life put me on the exact path that I always wanted to be on professionally. So today I found it pink legal, and I'm also doing my professional practice, and this is exactly what I wanted to do. So I'm so glad that that particular thing didn't work out, because ultimately it happened for a good reason, right? So that's how I learned from that. Failure is not always a failure, but it can be a stepping stone to something better, and it can be a pivot towards, where your life is supposed to take you. So it's how you deal with failure that's more important than the failure itself.
Thank you, Mansi, for sharing that. You also mentioned that you've always been a free spirited soul, but a lot of elders in your extended family would call up your parents and tell them that you were into drugs or you used to drink, and that your parents should deny you the right to moving out freely or also to your education. My question here is, even if they think you're doing all those things, how is putting an end to your education a solution? As in, why do people at large object higher education to women? As in, why do they feel threatened by it?
Yeah, I think because education kind of gives you the confidence to be your own person, take your own decisions, and that is something that society doesn't like women to do, because they always like to tell women what they're supposed to do. And so that could be one of the reasons. In my case, it was more in a way to, just put me down to such an extent that, oh, she's not even worth, sending her to college or spending money on her fees, because she's not going to do anything with it. And she's just going to waste your money. So it was just a way of really putting me down, and, trying to put my parents down. So that was what was happening in the extended family.
Hitting on your self confidence, basically.
Yeah, I was a teenager at that time, and I've always been a free spirit, so I took it in my stride. I was like, I don't care about what people think. And luckily, my parents were also very supportive, and they never let what people say affect the way that they raise me. But obviously, at some point, it did hit me, and so my relationship with my extended family became really strained, because I started, thinking that everybody is like that, and I became extremely conscious of the way I am if I'm with any extended family. So I almost had to put on a pretense like I'm another person altogether, just so that they don't have the slightest feeling that, what that person said is the truth. So that kind of really put me back. But now I know better, and obviously I've come out of that whole situation.
Like you said, you went into a sort of negative zone or a shell. um, I was wondering how long, did it take for you to come out of it, or how was that feeling of not being able to be your true self?
So yeah, obviously it didn't feel very good when I couldn't be my true self, because it felt like there was some part of me which I had to hide. And if you feel that about yourself, it obviously doesn't feel very good, right?
Yeah.
But it was, luckily for me, it was not about hiding it from society in general, because I never cared about that. But it was about my extended family. And whenever we would interact, because they don't live in Hyderabad, so whenever we would interact in weddings or any family functions, I had to really put on a very different version of myself. So that didn't feel good. And it was almost like this person had told everybody that, okay, she's into drugs and she drinks and she's into boys and all kinds of crap. So I was like, oh my God, I can't even talk to a boy in front of them, because then they will think that whatever she said is true. So that was the whole thing. But today, luckily, I mean, of course, because I'm an adult now, I'm confident about, whoever I am. I don't need to explain to anybody. I really don't care about what they think. And I've understood that when you truly own yourself and the way you are, people will start respecting that, and they will stop saying things behind your back. If you are scared about the way you are, or you try to hide it, that's when people feel that they have the power over you to kind of, say whatever they want or put you down.
How long did it take, Mansi, for you to be sure of yourself, to be confident in your own skin?
It took quite a while, because it was a combination of a lot of experiences, like this whole family thing, then being away from home in college. I wasn't very settled in my college when I was there. So all of that, so it was about a few years, I would say, till I, really came back. I settled down in my career. I got on the path which I wanted to be on. So yeah, and by the way, fitness played a huge role in me gaining that self feeling of being myself again. So when I started really exercising and working out, I saw a huge change in the way I was feeling, and I was like, because I'd never exercised in my whole life, so it was such a revelation. And so I would really like to put that over here, that fitness really helped me.
Fitness can only give positive results, and you have experienced it. Just one last question regarding this, because you said you felt you had a safe space with your parents. They were okay with who you are or were. I was wondering, when they gave you that safe space, how come you still felt the need to go into a shell or not be yourself with your extended family?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I never thought about this. I think it was just in front of the extended family because I didn't want people constantly judging me. Like, I was sick and tired of feeling judged for each and every move that I make. So I think that's why I was just putting on this pretense of being this really, really goody two shoes, follow all the rules kind of person, which I'm not. And just, yeah, I think it was more to stop people judging me constantly. So even though my parents were okay, like, I mean, they always let me be the way I want to be. Also, I didn't want people to constantly call them up and make up stories and stuff. So I think it was because of all of these factors.
What made you choose law as a career choice, Mans?
It was instinct. When I was in class 8 itself, I knew that I wanted to become a lawyer. It could be to a certain extent because law runs in my family, and my grandfather was a high court judge. So since I was little, I've seen, like, I've been exposed to a certain extent. Of course, he was in the Bombay High Court and I grew up in Hyderabad, but I've been exposed to a certain extent, and maybe genetically it just came to me naturally. So I just knew it, and since then I've stuck to it, and I've never ever had a doubt that maybe I should have chosen another profession. So I think it, maybe law chose me and not the other way around.
How was the experience of starting fresh in a different city, especially a city like Delhi?
So I went to Delhi for my college, and I was there for 5 years. Like, I had the most freedom among all my friends growing up. So, but I was just always eager to explore, and that's how Delhi was very exciting initially. But then it was a 5 year long course, and over a period of time, it got really difficult to kind of just keep staying there because it was also a closed campus. So you have to kind of it's a boarding place, and boarding colleges in India are really different from abroad because it's more like boarding school. So coming from an environment where I had so much freedom to do anything I wanted, to go into like this restrictive environment where I couldn't move around freely because it was in the outskirts of the city, and small things like this, it was very unsafe, etc. So small things like this make a lot of difference in our day-to-day life, and that is what uh, I would say brought down the quality of my life to a certain extent in college. So at least I wasn't able to adjust to that kind of living.
Uh, I read that the Nirbhaya case happened there when you were living there and studying there. Did it affect especially considering you're a group of law students, or did it affect the way you would move around in the city or the fear or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. Oh my God, I was terrified. It happened when I was home, like in Hyderabad for the holidays. And I just didn't want to go back. I wanted to leave college, never go back to Delhi because I was like, this could be any of us tomorrow and it's horrible. So it was really scary. And after that, I had a fear, like it was this strange fear that I had never felt in Hyderabad or anywhere else, where post 6:37, if I was out in Delhi, I would start getting panic attack. I would start getting anxiety about my safety. So even if I was with my partner, like he would come to visit me, and even if we were together, it would still be the same because obviously Nirbhaya was also with somebody, she was not alone. So that doesn't make a difference, and I was really terrified. It took me only when I went back to Delhi later in 2018 to work in the Supreme Court, that is when I was able to get over this fear. Otherwise it was crazy.
What are your thoughts on people saying that Western dressing is being is discussed as the girl provocatively and asking to be raped or some bullshit like that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's bullshit. Like, it's total rubbish because it just shows that people want to always point fingers at the victim rather than at the perpetrator. And you should look at the thought process of the perpetrator and not what the victim was wearing, because you could be wearing anything and still people will stare at you. Because I'll tell you something, in Shanghai. So I went to Shanghai as part of my law school. Like, I went for an exchange, and over there, for the first time in my life, I felt like I was living like a human being and not as a girl. And that was such a liberating feeling, because over there, nobody will stare at you no matter what you're wearing, and everybody freely wears whatever they want. They wear the shortest of clothes, and you can roam around freely even at 3 in the night. Even even if you don't know the language or you don't know the address, you can trust a taxi driver to take you home to your correct address without any hassle. And so that clearly shows that it is not your clothes, but it is the mentality and the society that actually causes all of these crimes to happen, right?
Why do you think there's such a low ratio of women in this career path?
I mean, you could hardly see maybe like 10, 15 women, and there are like hundreds and hundreds of men in the High Court. So obviously, it is quite bad. And one of the reasons is, firstly, litigation is going to court, and that is a career path which very few women choose because of infrastructure and other issues, like it's physically demanding as well as very, very time consuming. So women are burdened with family obligations and responsibilities, and therefore they're not given the option to freely choose this career path. And secondly, like, a lot of women I saw, they join as freshers, but slowly over 2-3 years they start dropping out because they get married, and the minute they get married, they're expected to kind of give the family requirements priority, and then everything else comes secondary. So if this particular career path doesn't fit in the requirement of the family, then it has to just be dropped out.
There are many girls I see who studied long courses, even medicine and stuff, and they just marry and they don't do justice to the profession that they studied. I did observe that in India.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, I read in one of your blogs that you wanted to quit both your jobs and do something you genuinely like. And recently, when we spoke, you said you weren't practicing law at the moment. So I was curious, are you planning on quitting, or did you take the plunge, or what's happening?
Yeah, this blog post, I wrote it last year, I think around this time itself, because that time I was working 2 jobs, and I was also in the process of launching Pink Legal, so it was getting very, very hectic for me. And so that is why I was just like looking forward to doing something I really like. So now I do. So I still practice law professionally, but it's just that I don't enjoy litigation, and I realized that 3 years into the profession, that that's not a career path I want to take. The only reason I wanted to take up litigation was because I thought that was the only way I could make a difference in society. But the minute I realized that there are other ways in which I can do the same without having to put myself through a path which I don't enjoy, so I shifted my path. So now I can satisfy my passion through Pink Legal, and I also work as a corporate and transactional lawyer, and I really enjoy that part of my work as well. So I'm also able to enjoy I'm able to enjoy that part of law which I really like to practice.
I've observed a lot of kids feel the need to do something different and not follow the herd of sheep in their respective societies, or there are a few others who want to study something just because somebody else is studying. Further, there's always some external influence in their decision making, like parents would be happy, or there's good money there, or there's good respect there. But in this whole process, they forget to think about the most important question, which is, what do I want to do? And then they get stuck in jobs that they're not happy about. And what follows is, doing things for the sake of it without passion. Few of them take the plunge and quit. Few are still stuck there. I was wondering, what's your perspective in this area now that you're doing what you love? How do you think kids nowadays should approach their career paths?
I wish I could say like a one size fits all kind of an answer, but I really think that there is no standard answer, because if there was, then we would have all figured out our lives straight out of college, right? So I strongly believe that each person has their own journey of life, and they go through different experiences. So some people realize early in life what they want to do, some people realize it much later, maybe 10-15 years into their career. So there's really no rush, or there's you don't have to compare yourself with somebody else to kind of set a timeline for yourself or do what somebody else is doing. And always just believe, like, have this understanding that your life is your own journey and nobody else's. And I think once you get that clarity, you will not feel the need to do something just for the sake of it, or because everybody else in my class is doing it, so I should do it, otherwise I'll get left behind. Because even if you see, like, from any college, if you take a class which passes out, you will see that if there are 100 people who passed out, so many, like, hardly anybody would have, like, hardly any two people would have the same career path, right? Though they've all studied the exact same course, because everybody's life will take them on their own journey. So there is really no, I mean, we really shouldn't compare ourselves to anybody else.
Back when you posted this blog on Facebook, I remember reading it. This is something that probably turned your life around, which is at the Jubilee Signal, couple of guys bombarding you. Can you please tell the story once again and how that motivated you to think legal?
Yeah, sure. I feel if I meet those guys someday, I'll be like, oh, look, I've spoken so much about you.
Or maybe they'd be naive enough to think that they made your career today.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened is one day I was driving home from work around 10:30 at night, and it was at the Jubilee Hills road number 45, road number 45 signal. And this white Swift car just came, and kind of they were driving very crazily, and they just came and like cut across, and we would have almost like had an accident if I hadn't braked in time. So when we were at the signal, our bumpers touched, and the minute that happened, these people, they just stopped the car, and they came out of the car, and then they were like, they surrounded my car on both sides, and they were banging on, I mean, they went crazy. They were banging on the doors and the car, like on the window. They were trying to open my car door, and I was just trying to signal to them from inside that we can go to the side and talk, or whatever. But they weren't listening to anything. So when I saw that it's not going anywhere, I quickly took out my phone and took a picture of their number plate. And I'm so thankful that I did that, because that was the only way in which I could finally go to the police station and get a resolution to my complaint. So after that, they got even more wild and everything, and they broke my side view mirrors, etc. And 15-20 minutes later, they finally, moved the car. I think I reversed my car, and I drove away, and I was really scared for my safety. And obviously, I was really angry that, somebody thinks that they can just do this and get away with it. So once I reached home, and I wrote everything down immediately, because I think as a lawyer, it comes as a natural instinct. You're taught to always collect all the evidence and all the details. So I took pictures of my car. I took the picture of the number plate, and then all the details. I wrote it down, the description of the two boys and everything. The next day, I went and filed a police complaint, and a very strong one, because obviously I knew what laws will apply. And then the police also somehow, luckily, they took me seriously, because maybe because they knew I was a lawyer, or maybe because I came across as somebody who knows what she wants, or like who knows her rights. So they filed a police complaint. In fact, they were very, very supportive, and the police were very nice. And then in 2 days, an FIR was lodged. In fact, on that day itself, a call went to those people saying that a complaint has been registered against you, etc. So then the police, later after 2 days, they called them to the police station, and they told me that you can come if you want to talk to them. So we went there, and those boys had come accompanied by an uncle to kind of help them in talking, because they didn't have the courage to talk. So
They even remember what happened the previous night.
they weren't drunk.
Oh, okay.
They were just unruly. Like, they were entitled men.
I assume you were under the influence of something. I mean, I didn't know this was their natural state.
Yeah, looks like it. I mean, obviously, in my complaint, I did mention that it could be suspected that they were under some influence, because no normal person behaves so unruly for such a small thing. But obviously, I mean, it's not like we went and got them tested or anything. So
I'm sorry. Did the uncle request you to not file an FIR because of their careers would get spoiled or something like that?
yeah, of course. In fact, he completely sidelined me and started talking to my partner as if I was not there. And I very clearly told my partner that, look, I'm the one who was, assaulted. So I'm going to speak. So you don't speak anything. You just be there for moral support. So when he started doing that, like sidelining me, I told that uncle that listen, you talk to me because otherwise I'm going to go and take this case ahead. And I'm a lawyer, so for me it's just a part of my day-to-day work to file this case against these boys. And he was like, oh, he's just getting married, and or he just got married, so he has a wife, and be considerate of that, and all kinds of. And then he tried to find some common family friends or links to show that, oh, we know each other, so you should let it go, kind of a thing. But yeah, I didn't let it go.
Why was it important for you, Mansi, to file an FIR?
Because of my principles that I believe in, that I don't like it if somebody takes me for granted. And this was not just me as a person, but it was me as a woman, because these men thought that they could just get away with it, doing assaulting a woman in the city and not having any repercussions. And also me as a lawyer, who if my profession is that, right, to bring justice. So if I get scared and don't file a complaint, then what about all the other women out there who don't even know their basic rights? Like, what will they do? So it was all these three factors that really made me want to go and complain.
How did Pink Legal come about?
So Pink Legal, like not Pink Legal as such, but something like Pink Legal was always on my mind since law school. I wanted to do something like this to increase legal awareness. But then when this
particularly towards women, or you just
no, towards women specifically. So when this incident took place, and I personally went to the police station, I was also intimidated to go to the police station because I didn't know how it functions. And then I thought that, if as a lawyer I don't know and I'm so scared, then what about other women who don't know anything about the law? So it's really important for me to educate them about a police complaint and an FIR and how to file, what is the procedure, and not just that, but also know their basic rights in all kinds of, all activities of life, so that they feel that confidence to go and file a police, like to take action against any injustice.
I've been following and observing the organic growth of Pink Legal. It even garnered the attention of national media and Bollywood celebrities. I'm happy for you. Congratulations on that. What difference do you hope to make with Pink Legal in the future?
So I actually always believe that I want to change mindsets, because changing one person, of course, like even if I encourage one woman to go and take action and stand up for her rights, I feel really satisfied. So, and how does that happen? Is because I was able to help in some way to change her mindset and to come out of the conditioning that she's been given since childhood to, just keep quiet and suffer in silence and compromise. And instead of that, to stand up for herself. So if I am able to, through Pink Legal, change the mindsets of women all over India, and of young women, college-going women, high school girls, right at that ripe age, if I'm able to help them, like in any way, to grow up into really strong, independent, confident women, that will, I think, really solve half of. It will be kind of the goal that we're working towards, because only if women are confident and independent can they actually take action for their legal rights. Otherwise, it's not possible, because they are always bogged down by society.
I was wondering if you heard Emma Watson's UN speech on equality.
Yeah, I heard a part of it long back, but I don't remember it exactly now.
No, she spoke so beautifully about balancing the feminine and masculine energies in both men and women, and how men also have to be feminists in order to achieve equality. As
Yeah,
in, basically, it's if anybody believes in equality, it means they're a feminist, but they shy away from the word feminist. And you were mentioning how women should feel confident. At the same time, what do you feel about what she said? As in, do men also need to play a part in women feeling confident? I mean, not directly. By what I mean is just respecting everybody in general, irrespective of gender.
Yeah, definitely. Because see, all of us together form society, and society is the one who has a lot of influence on us, right? Right from when we are small, we're always doing things according to what society says, or we are taught that there are certain ways of behavior which are appropriate or not appropriate. So, because all of us form a part of society, it's important for everybody to be a feminist and to stand up for equality and equal rights. Like, to give you a small example, in school, if you notice, there's such a slut shaming culture in high school. And the other day, my friend and I were talking, and we realized that this didn't come from us. Like, it was not that we girls were kind of slut shaming each other, but we remembered that it was the boys who were our friends who used to very freely and casually slut shame us, and that's how we got into the whole idea that it's, okay, and like that is something that we can do to each other. So it's not that I'm blaming the boys. I mean, we could have known better, but obviously we didn't know at that age, so we did get influenced. So, like, obviously in every single way, society does shape up the kind of person you are, right? So, right from childhood. So that's why it's important for all of us to believe in equality and be feminists.
The assumptions that people make are so very different, right, for women than they are for men. You also express that, if girls are caught bunking, they're tagged to be misbehaving. And if boys are caught doing the same thing, then it's like boys will be boys. And if girls have dates and go out at night, it brings disrespect to the family. And if the guy does the same thing, it does not bring any disrespect. And don't even get me started on patriarchy. With society dictating so many norms and a large number of parents sticking to the norm, how do girls in the current day and age who are extremely talented, smart, mature, and have the right to find themselves or fend for themselves and experience and explore and learn, how can they do this without getting affected by family, extended family, or society at large?
I think by following my father's advice that listen to everybody but do what you want. Because ultimately, if you do what you want, then society and whatever they say, let them bark. But it doesn't matter. You are always going to follow the path that you want, right? And that's what we all need to do. And you can only do that if you're really confident about yourself. So I think instilling confidence in girls and being financially and emotionally independent is extremely important to follow the path that you want. Because still, you may want to really take a stand for yourself, but if you're not financially independent, it does hamper your chances of doing the same. So, yeah,
So, what do you mean by emotionally being independent, Marks?
emotionally being independent is basically being confident in your own self and not depending on others emotionally to an extent where you feel that you can't take decisions which might separate you from somebody who is toxic towards you.
As in
Or,
valuing your self-respect based on somebody else's opinion of you. Is that right?
yeah, you could say that as well. So just basically being complete in yourself as a person and not being dependent on anybody else for anything. If we can achieve that to an extent, then you can really go after your life the way you want.
You also blogged about age-old marriage rituals like kanyadan and touching your husband's feet, and how you didn't want to include these rituals in your wedding. Why was that important to you, and how did your now husband Abhishek react, and did you get any backlash from the elders in the family?
So it was important for me because obviously I like this feminism or that fire for equality that I feel, it really comes from somewhere deep within, and I can't explain how. It's a very important part of me as a person. So that is why I couldn't go through something which is so against my very core. And just for the sake of a wedding ritual, which is not even something that my husband and I created for ourselves, but which God knows who has created and said that, this is exactly how you should get married. So that is why we decided that, actually not we, but it was more me pushing for it, but he was very supportive and very understanding. And, so we decided to kind of eliminate these rituals, which are very, very patriarchal and they don't serve any purpose. I mean, it's not that you are brainwashed to think that Kanyadan will give your parents a lot of punya and only then will they be able to go to heaven. But I'm sure my parents will go to heaven for bringing me up in a very, for giving me a good childhood and for giving me everything that they could. And that one ceremony is not going to change that, right? So I think even having these conversations with our parents slowly kind of helped them understand where I was coming from. And luckily, my parents were pretty okay with it because they have been open-minded from the start, and so were my in-laws. They were very accommodating, so I have to give them credit for that as well. And so was our pandit, because in most weddings, it's the pandit who refuses to carry.
A pandit who's willing to do that.
Yeah, luckily this pandit has been coming to us since childhood, so he knows me. So he literally, like, we had a meeting one day where he told me all the rituals. He's like, okay, ye karna hai, theek hai, ye nahi karna hai, okay, cross. So it was like that. And then we decided what are the rituals we're going to do and not going to do. So yeah, I have to give credit to the Pandit also.
Any backlash from extended family or any other elders, like family, friends, and stuff like that? Because a lot of people blindly believe in these kind of customs, right? So that's where I'm wondering.
Yeah, I mean, there must have been. I really didn't care because it was my wedding and I was not getting married for them. Like, they can do what they want in their own weddings. So I'm sure there was a lot of discussion in our wedding behind our backs. But I really didn't care because the same family will, I mean, if they can, they're supposed to be family, right? So family is not supposed to judge you based on how you are, but they're supposed to accept you. So if they can't, then I can't do anything about it. But I can't change the way I live my life because of that.
Mansi, I was
So yeah.
wondering generally, praying to God, these customs and the way pujas are done, the ceremonies are done. It's not something we generally question, right? There's stuff that just happen. For most of us, me included, never even got the thought that I could question something like that. Whether I like it or not, I used to always think, oh, it's just the custom. This is the way the puja is done. This is the way the ceremony is done. I was wondering what made you question it. So is it the equality feminism inside you, or is it the habit that you inculcated that you question anything and everything, which you don't think is right?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both because as lawyers in law school, you're really taught to question every single thing. Like, what if somebody tells you that if I tell you my name is Mansi and you're a lawyer, you'll be taught to question that also and analyze if I'm really saying the truth, etc. Right? So it makes you very, very analytical. So I think that was one reason, and also because of my strong feeling of feminism. So a combination of both of these. So whenever I would come across articles or I don't know how I got introduced to that whole concept of how our traditions are patriarchal. But the more I realized it, the more I started kind of delving into it and digging deeper, and that's how I understood that so many things that we do in our day-to-day life are really, really patriarchal.
There's a large section of people who think getting married is the only way to settle down for a woman. And upon refusal, they pressurize them with fear that they're doing a wrong thing or threaten them or emotionally blackmail them into agreeing. I've experienced situations when asked to marry and settle down, and a girl strongly says, I would rather learn to be independent first. The elders would say something like, you can get married and get a job. What's the big deal? They fail to comprehend that being independent doesn't mean getting a job. It's having control and choice over your own decisions. I was wondering what your thoughts are on this.
Yeah, I have like a lot of strong thoughts about this because I feel that more and more parents and elders should encourage their daughters to really be independent. And just the way you put it, it's not about getting a job, but independence, according to me, is financial and emotional independence. And if you do achieve that, then when you marry somebody, it will be purely for love, compassion, friendship, whatever it will be for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons. So you will not be dependent on your partner. So you will not be compelled to put up with all kinds of bullshit from that partner. Because trust me, like ever since I've started, I've started Pink Legal, and the number of women that reach out to us, almost 85% of the women who reach out to us, and there are many. So it's not a small sample size; it's a huge sample size. So 80% of these women, all their problems stem from marriage and from the dependence that they have on their husband. So if women were so I feel like we should really, really not get married until and unless you are independent, not just financially but also emotionally independent enough to stand up to somebody if they are trying to put you in a cage or trying to take control of your life. So it's, yeah, very important.
Pink Legal is about letting women across India know their rights. Hyderabuddy, on the other side, is a Hyderabad based food and lifestyle blog. They're both very different from each other. So, how did this come about, Mansi?
The Hyderabad came out of boredom in college where, I was in Delhi and
Oh, you were in
Instagram
college
was,
and you started it. I didn't think it
yeah,
was that old.
oh, it's quite old. It's like, I think 2015
Oh, okay.
or, yeah. So that's when I was just exploring Instagram and all these Instagram blogs were coming out then. So, and I really like food photography. It's a lot of fun. So I thought that, and since I would miss home so much, this was my way of connecting with Hyderabad and like being alive through my blog. So that's how I started it. And then through the, like on the way, Palak, my co-founder, so she joined in, and then, we started doing it together. And yeah, we used to really enjoy doing that.
How did your blogging start, and how do you feel when you write about something and post it out for the public to read?
So my blogging also started in college because it actually started because I was finding it finding it hard to choose which movie to watch. So I thought, let me write a blog and make a list of all the movies that I like. And since I made that, I started really enjoying writing more things, and that's how I started exploring this, avenue of blogging. I've always enjoyed writing as a child. I've always been into journaling, so it came as a natural extension of my writing habits. And now my blog is really a place for me to express myself and, put forth my emotions or whatever I feel about anything. And it's very cathartic in a way, and it it's something that I really enjoy doing. It's like a hobby, one of my favorite hobbies.
I like writing and blogging as well. So this question is just personally for me. I'm curious. Do you like put all your thoughts down and then you edit, like put it into a flow of introduction, body, and conclusion, or you're somebody who writes in one flow, like from the top to bottom?
It really depends. I do both. Like sometimes if I have the thought of some blog post in my head, then chapter, like, in like 2 minutes, the whole thing, the whole structure is like formed in my head, and all I have to do is just write it. But sometimes if I know that, okay, this is a topic that I want to write about and I'm trying to collect my thoughts about it, then I write down all my thoughts, and like later obviously I edit. So I don't edit when I'm writing because it stops the, flow of thought. And then once I write everything, then I edit and structure it.
Right. What's your future vision, Mansi, for Pink Legal, Hyderabadi, blogging? Where do you think you're going to take all these things in the future?
God knows, like I'm somebody who doesn't believe in planning a lot, because I feel like, life will always put you on the path that you're meant to be on. So there's no point planning too much. But yeah, like I have goals. So obviously, I want to make Pink Legal bigger, and I want to change mindsets. I want to make, help in making women more independent and access their legal rights. So that's something that I have a goal in mind for Pink Legal. As for Hyderabad, it's a hobby. I hope I'm able to post more often because I've just really neglected it. It's become a stepchild after Pink Legal. And my blogging, I hope to do it every fortnight, and yeah, like just keep it up just for my own writing juices to kind of flow.
With Pink Legal, I know you're connecting your people who are asking queries with lawyers, but did you think of the next step after that?
So, next step, are you referring to something in particular, or are you asking me
No,
what would be the
if
next step?
like your next goal, basically.
Yeah, like so right now we do connect them to lawyers, but then as I was telling you, if because women are not independent, they can't really take that step. So they want to, but they can't. So I hope through changing mindsets, I'm able to convert more of the women who I connect to lawyers to actually go and take action against the injustice that they're facing. So I think that will happen through a combination of multiple factors.
Thank you, Mansi. I just have three questions that I want to ask everybody, a common ground set of questions. One word that resonates the most with you.
Fire.
Any reason that you can share?
Um, I mean, I
Maybe you feel
I
like you're a
think
firebrand of a person.
yeah, my husband keeps calling me that, and he's like, "Oh my god, everybody must be scared of you because they think you're a firebrand." But yeah, like I feel, that fire within me to do something. So I can only do something if I feel the fire for it. And then basically that could also be passion or whatever word we want to give it. But yeah, so fire is one thing that I really resonate with.
Amazing. One thing you wish you had done differently?
Nothing actually, because I mean, as I tell you that, all the dots connect backwards. Maybe as a teenager, if I could have not let this extended family affect me, but I did my best at that point of time. And, so I think, yeah, nothing really.
That's amazing. I think that's a blessing to be able to feel that. One advice you think is important to everybody?
Be your own person. So, really like understand yourself, understand what are your strengths and weaknesses, accept that your life is your own journey and not somebody else's. And also understand that people come and go in your life and they may not stay permanently because your paths cross sometimes, and they'll stay connected till the time that your paths are meant to cross, and then they may go their own ways because their journey takes them somewhere else. So I think that has really given me clarity and helped me accept, losing people or like losing friends or accepting new friends. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Mansi. Wish you so much more positivity in life and hope that you keep growing further heights and inspiring millions of women out there to do the same.
Thank you, Mohana, and I wish you the same. And I hope that your podcast is like, really, really, I'm sure it's going to be really inspiring for a lot of young people who are listening. So thank you so much for having
Thank
me.
you.